Okay, so I think in the last week, before last week, we started discussion about executing native SQL queries as part of Spring Boot JPA module. So that means whenever we are working with database by using Spring Boot framework and JPA module. So most of the times we will make code operations by using JPA, a repository and predefined methods. By using all predefined or custom find by custom derived find by methods, remove methods, all these things. But sometimes what will happen here it is you can't make everything via predefined code of predefined methods which are provided by the JPA. So some scenarios we want to execute an SQL query as it is from our logic. That means by using Spring Boot JPA, how to execute the regular SQL queries. That is what the concept of native SQL queries. So here we have generally one more concept called as JPQL queries. So JPQL is all about a separate language implemented by the Java Persistence API, nothing but JPA. So we will see what is JPQL. But other than that, why I'm using native word here it is we whatever the SQL queries we used to write on daily basis to interact with database, those queries we are calling it as a native SQL queries. Native means the actual or the real original queries. Okay, so that is kind of native word we are using here it is. So how we are making that, that is what discussion we taken in the last session. It's very simple and straightforward. So what are the few things we have to follow? The one thing is, first of all, you know what is the query you have to execute. And once you are having query with you, so what we have to do is we have to define an abstract method. We have to define an abstract method as part of the repository interface. So once you define repository level and abstract method, then you will define your SQL query inside an annotation called as @query annotation. So if you see this annotations query annotation from the Spring framework from the JPA module. So once you are using this query annotation and you will use two attributes called as value and native query. So value you will give the SQL query, whatever the query you would like to execute, and native query is talking about by default native query equal to false. Nothing but if you are not mentioned native query attribute as part of this annotation, then internally it will take value as false. So the moment it is taking value as false, then internally it will consider always as a JPQL query. So it will consider as a JPQL query. But JPQL query is a different concept. So that is again a different concept. But we are executing our regular SQL query, not JPQL query. So if you given false or if you are not given that attribute itself, internally it will consider false only. So whenever it consider it as a false, that means it will consider the query written in the language of JPQL. You written in the query, the query we are written in the JPQL language, but not in the SQL language. But we are executing right now only SQL query languages. So that means the queries, whatever we would like to execute, we written or we written in the SQL language. So that's why this attribute value we have to pass through. So that means we are telling to the JPA framework, hey JPA, so the query whatever provided as part of the value attribute, it's not implemented by using JPQL language. It is implemented by using SQL language. This query belongs to SQL language, not JPQL language. Like that, you are giving this value as a true. If you given false or if you are not given this property, then it will become as a internally JPA will consider this query as a this value whatever you configured here is considering as a JPQL. Then the approach is different approach. So that's why the moment you are executing SQL queries, native query equal to true. The moment you are executing JPQL queries, then native query equal to false. So that is how you have to remember this property. At what time you have to go true or false, you should know based on the query type what we are given. Okay, so like that things will happen. No, that is what we completed in the last session. Even we taken one more approach also. Like the point here it is, whenever we are having, okay, positional parameters, nothing but whenever we want to pass values, dynamic values to the query level. So that means sometimes I may provide Hyderabad city value, Bangalore, or whatever I want I can provide, or based on the combination of multiple columns I want to get the data. So in such case, it's not only select query, update query, delete query, insert queries also. Whenever we want to pass values dynamically to the query level, what you have to do in JPA. So if you see here, city value I have to pass. In this case, country and gender value I have to pass. Like that, I want to pass dynamic values to the queries level. Then what we have to do? So in this case, JPA provided again two approaches. One is indexed query parameters, second one is named query parameters. So we started discussing about indexed query parameters. As part of indexed query parameter, so we have to follow an approach called as index number. So index number starts from 1 in this case. So we will use positional query symbol followed by index number. So the moment whenever you want to pass values to the column level, wherever you want to pass values to the column level of the table, there you will define the index number followed by the query symbol, question mark symbol. You will define the index number. So these are all details we discussed in the last session. So if you have one more value, so then like this, index 1, index 2, index 3, like that the number of values you want to pass, those many number of index values you have to pass. But one small thing what you have to make sure here it is, whatever the abstract method you define here, and whenever you are defining this method arguments. So if you observe here, in this case 0 values we are passing to this query. So we are not passing any dynamic values to this query. So that's why what's happened in this case, you no need to mention any arguments. But here in this case, second approach point of view, you want to get data always based on the city. So based on the city, you want to get all employees information. Then you are passing one value, city value. And then you have to define one method argument to pass that city value. Now if you observe here, country value and gender value, two values you have to pass. So that's why you have to pass two arguments. And one more point what you have to remember as a developer always here it is, the whatever the index numbers we given, okay, and whatever the method arguments we provided in the order, in same way it will go. For example, country you given as a first argument, so then it will go to the first index. If you given gender in the second argument, it will go to the second index. So that means what is the order it will follow here it is, the indexed positional parameters point of view, whatever the method arguments order you given, method argument 1, 2, 3 like that, same way the values will be replaced internally by JPA module. Whenever we are passing values here, internally it will do same thing. If you observe here, yeah, from here we are passing the values, right? So for example, Hyderabad city value, I provided Hyderabad. So the moment we are providing Hyderabad, what will happen? The value comes here and Hyderabad value is replaced in this scenario. The Hyderabad value is replaced in this scenario. The Hyderabad value is replaced here. Similarly, country, India and gender, whatever the values you are passing, those are our values will be replaced in the first index, second index based on the method arguments values point. So these are all details we discussed in the last session very clearly. Okay, but just I am revising for last 1 week gap point of view. So and this is all about index positional parameters. So if you have 10, 15 parameters also, you will pass in the same order. Query 1, okay, query parameter 2, query parameter 3, something like that, question mark 1, question mark 2, like that you will pass the index numbers, and in the same order you will pass the method arguments. You will create an abstract method with same order. Okay, so that is what one small thing as a developer you have to remember always, which parameter is going into which index level. That is what one thing you have to take care. Otherwise, sometimes what will happen, if you are jumbling this order in the method arguments point of view, then gender value will go here. Why? Because you may implement it like this. So if you are maybe some reason, so the moment you are passing values, you have to make sure which argument value going to which column level, you have to make sure based on the argument name and index number. So this is the one small thing we have to be careful as part of the index positional parameters. Now, what about the named query parameters? So, we understood indexed query parameters. Going further, wherever you want to pass values, you will use always question mark and followed by the index number 1, 2, 3 in a incremental order. And as well as you will make sure method arguments, that abstract method arguments are being in the same order with respect to column index parameters. Now, what about the named query parameters? What is the difference between indexed and named query parameters? We'll try to understand. For example, tomorrow when you are working with this, assume this is the requirement only, again you are having. Again you are having, this is the requirement only. Okay. So in this case, assume you have two parameters, that's okay. You can easily manage it. Country is going here, gender is going here, like that. But assume some reason you are passing around 10 values. Some reason. Okay, your requirement point of view, you are passing 10 values. So that means it will become like question mark symbol 1 and question mark symbol 2, like that you will pass almost, you will pass like index values like this. And the moment you are defined as part of your query in different places this index numbers, the moment you are defining the abstract method, your own method, something like whatever the method it is, okay, then what you will do, you have to make sure based on this index order point of view, you have to define the arguments order also, arguments values order as well. So you have to maintain this order 100%. Argument values order has to be followed based on the index. Now the first one value is coming, that should go to first one, like that. You have to be very careful with respect to method arguments values here. So this thing you have to take care. Arguments values order should be followed. Otherwise, what will happen if you are not followed the order? For example, you given TW2 and ONE1, something like that. What will happen? Assume just values point of view, I'm telling you. Now, what two value will go to the in the first position. This one will go to the second position. But your assumption, in reality, actually, it should go to the second place and it should go to the first place. But you defined in a proper, little bit wrong order, then in entire query level, values will be jumbled. So that means values will be misplaced. So to avoid this problem, JPA provided one more option called as named query parameters. Named query parameters. So concept is same. Another solution to avoid the confusion point of view also. And this will improve the named query parameters concept is going to be avoid the confusion of order of arguments when comparing with the column values what you have to replace dynamically. And as well as named query parameters are going to improve the readability also. So that means if I am taking again, so in this case named query parameters point of view. So here whenever we want to pass values dynamically, so generally what we define, index query parameters we define, right? But in this case we will define some named names, some variable names we can define. So that means we are going to define some variable names. So how to see it? No. At column values level, we will define named parameters. Named parameters by following below syntax. Okay, so what is that syntax is? So you have to follow this syntax always in this case. What it is? Colon followed by name or something like I can use like named parameter name. Simple guys, simple, nothing but instead of 1 2 3 we are using names here, that's all. So parameter name, so that means now if you taken this query again, so if it is index point of view, you written like this. If it is indexed query parameters, what you written, this is index query parameter. So index means numbers, so that's why you give a number 1 2 3 based on that indexed query parameter. But if I am taking same thing with respect to named query parameters, let's see here. So what you have to do, you should not use index numbers, you can't use parameter name, so nothing but, and what way, colon followed by the parameter name, so nothing but kind of a variable name. Now see here, here I want to pass a value dynamically, city value Hyderabad, Bangalore, dynamically I can pass any value here, right? So here I'll make sure colon something you can pass like city name, ABC, XYZ, whatever it is. Now understand which looks very good with respect to readability and understandability point of view for a developer, or maybe tomorrow a fresher or join, I mean any experience of reading point or read understandability point of view. This looks good or this looks good means definitely second one looks very good. So the reason is it is very clearly telling what is the value. You can define a very clear meaningful variable name here, so that what value is being replaced here going further. For example, now you are passing some Hyderabad value, what will happen, that Hyderabad value is replaced in this position. Here also same thing will happen, but the problem here it is, first challenge is, that's what I said, you have to make sure following the order of method arguments based on the index numbers. That is one challenge. Second challenge is readability problem also. Now for example, if someone else trying to understand this query again with respect to indexed query parameter. Okay, so then what's happening in this case? You may understand, okay, I'm not saying like that, but the thing is somewhat looking like what you are being passed value here. For example, assume tomorrow your column name is like this. Some reason your column name is like this. Someone created column name like this. Then what you can understand here it is, the column name they given like this. You can't properly pronounce it, or you can't understand what exactly the meaning of this column name also. So there might be a chance. But now, if same thing, if I am taking with respect to named query parameters, okay, if I am taking same thing with respect to named query parameters, see column names you can't do anything. But here, in place of this, I'll give something like city name or country name, whatever it is. So colon equal to, see, in place, understand the point guys. In place of question mark and one point of view, I'm using colon symbol and followed by the variable name. Here you use query symbol, index number, colon symbol, variable name, named query parameter. That's what name we are giving. We are providing a name. So now here I am giving colon name, something like country name, something like that. I can give my meaningful country name. So country name I given like this. Yes. Now similarly second one, gender also. So in this case also gender equal to, in earlier case what you did, so gender, I mean I think you given 2 here. Yeah. So in earlier you have like this index report. Now in this case gender equal to what I'm going to give here, it is colon name I'm giving like something like gender, whatever it is. So now it is improving the readability point of view also, understandability point of view also. This query sir looks good. So that's why you may go with this solution. Not only this advantage, I'll tell you one more advantage also in this case. What it is, for example, if it is indexed query parameters, you followed this approach. What? You have to make sure order of the index is followed by the method arguments index. If you are misplacing the order, then okay, based on the method arguments only, the values will be replaced at index level. So that means there is a deep connectivity or dependency in between method arguments order versus index values. But here the advantage of with named query parameters is, for example, the moment you defined a SQL query like this, I mean, you use it named query parameters like this. Okay, here you used one query parameter, one named parameter, total two. Total two we used in this case. Okay, so the moment you define again a method like this in this case, I mean, we have one more small annotation help we have to take here. For example, what I will do here it is, I'll take one more annotation called as at the rate param. So that means when you have to use this annotation at the rate param guys, when you are using the named query parameters, when you are using named query parameters, you have to use one annotation called as at the rate param, and here you will define, okay, the variable name what you define. For example, I have defined country name, and then followed by method argument name I given. Similarly, second argument level at the rate param, and then followed by space. Okay, I mean param, inside this I given gender. So what is this gender? This one. So whatever the variable names I given, named parameters I given, same thing I configured again as part of the annotation called as at the rate param. What is the advantage of this? What is the advantage of this is, for example, see here, yeah, this is the order you followed and you written this. Good. Now assume tomorrow a person came, okay, and as a developer I came and I written like this. So now see here, same way I written like this. What it is? Okay, I mean leave about exact that what. I'm just making a small thing here. Okay. Now assume I written like this. Now what is the advantage in this case is, see, this time I did not, I'm not worrying about order of method arguments. Sometimes I given country as first and gender as a second. Now I given gender as a first and then country as a second. Now I can give very, I don't want to worry about order of method arguments. Why? The reason is in this case very clearly, very particularly, you given variable names. You are using this concept. So that means in this case very clearly country name. So that means you are telling to the JPA framework, hey JPA, wherever a name parameter defined as gender, okay, then please send this value over there. Like that you're telling. So that means what will happen? Automatically this method argument level, whatever value came, it will replace here. Similarly, wherever country name parameter is there, then whatever the value you got here, that will be replaced here. That will be replaced here. Now, similarly, if you take in first one also, wherever country name is there, automatically this value is replaced here. So nothing but this value comes here and it is replaced here. Similarly, wherever gender is available, then that value is replaced here. It is. So this is the advantage of named query parameter. So that means here you are very clearly making a naming convention, naming names. So based on the names, JPA will directly blindly what, for example, tomorrow, I mean, you are passing these two values now. If you go here, employee operations, these values you pass, right? So the moment you are passing these two values, what it will understand here it is, yeah. So the moment you are passing these two values, what will happen in this case? India. So first value will come here. Okay, and second value comes here. Generally, here whenever you are passing the values, you have to make sure very carefully. Now, for example, in this case, country name came here, right? But you are while you are passing the values, you have to make sure, guys, that you can't avoid it. Okay, now see here in this case, yeah, you passed values like this. India came here, male value came here. Then what will happen? Again, India country point of view, what it will do in this case is, sorry, Yeah. So in this case, what will happen? This India value. Yeah. So India value comes here, country level. Now, what internally JPA will understand, it will observe this param annotation, country name. So where this country name is located, it is located here. So this value will be replaced here. Similarly, gender value. So it male comes here. So it will observe parameter. Okay, gender is. So where this gender is available, here it is available. So then it will replace this value here. So based on the name, values are being replaced in this scenario. Okay, so in this case, you no need to follow method arguments order because you are using extra information, extra annotation. So you can define anywhere else. For example, assume you changed the order, but based on the okay argument name only, the values will be replaced. Here it is. So that is how there is a small difference between indexed and named parameters. Named parameters will improve the readability and understandability of the query. Okay, query formations also, as well as named parameters point of view. When you are using, you no need to worry about. You no need to worry about. Okay, especially when you are defining the SQL query, you no need to. For example, assume I define query like this. So any difference in this case? No. Any small thing is going to change? No. Any problem? Nothing. So now with respect to this again, what will happen? India value comes to country. So that means country associated to country name. Country name is available here. So that means again country level India is coming. But if you go with old approach, indexed positional parameter point of view, what will happen? So if you take an, for example, assume a developer written query like this. It's all about query writing point of view. Now developer written query like this. Query wise, it's okay. Query wise, it is okay. But what is the problem? Now, in this case, what happened? Country will go to the like that. I mean, it's all about if you maintain order, index order, that is good. But some reason you made index something like 1 and 2, then again problem comes. But if you maintained again index in a proper point of view, there is no problem in this case. Only thing is that is your guide. Two solutions are available. As a developer, what your comfort, go with that. That's all. But my recommendation is this is what a good solution because it doesn't matter of the values how we are passing and we know the concept. It's all about the read understandability of the or it is improving the readability of the SQL queries, what values you are passing, and you are making a very clear convention like what column level what value you are passing and all. Tomorrow you can have a very easy grasping with respect to writing the SQL queries, managing the SQL queries, and passing the values also. You can easily manage with names when you have the names, specific names. So that's why it's better to go with this one. But internally same thing will happen with respect to values replacement. That is what the difference between indexed and named positional parameters. Let's take a small example with respect to named positional parameters, and then we'll move to the DML queries execution. Okay, so I'm writing quickly. In this case, I'll take a requirement point of view. I want city and gender level. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's write SQL query first. Select star from employee details. Where city equal to, so I can pass any value in this case, and age less than 25. If anyone is there from 25 less than age and from the Hyderabad, I want all those employees. Yeah, there are two employees available whose age is less than 25 from the Hyderabad. So that means now this is my query. Why assume this is requirement? you want to make sure get a data always based on the city and age point of view, and age value is always less than that age and belong to so and so city. That is what your requirement. Now how can you execute this query with respect to JPQL point of view dynamically? So that is what our concept here it is. So that means requirement point of view, this is what get employee informations belongs to a particular city and whose age is less than given value. So that means city value and age value will pass dynamically, but always it has to get data of employees from that city, and then as well as less than that age value, less than that given age value. So now that means I will pass dynamically value. Bangalore I can pass and I can pass. So that means two dynamic values I have to pass in this case. So here one place and here also one more place. Values point of view, here I will pass dynamically two values always. So now in this case, named positional parameters point of view. See if it is indexed point of view, I'll write first indexed. So if it is indexed, what you will do? Just you will provide index by using query symbol. So here question mark followed by 1, question mark followed by 2. But if it's a named query parameter, so instead of index values, you will give names. That's all. So in this case, instead of this, you will use colon followed by something like city, whatever it is. You can use any variable names, XYZ, ABC, whatever you want. Now here also colon, I will use something like age. So I given variable names now this time in to replace the values point of view. Now that's all your, and after that what you have to do? Yeah, let's go and create a method public named SQL query parameters. Okay, so I want list of employee objects. Get employees by city and age point of view. Okay, so here what I said, you have to go with an annotation called as query annotation, and then value equal to SQL query you have to pass, and this is a regular SQL query. That's why native SQL query equal to true. And here pass the SQL query. So and this time we are not using index, we are using variables. So this is what query we are using. So this is index, this is names. So now in this case, what I said, you can follow any order. Okay, for example, and I said you have to use one extra annotation in this case called as @param. So if you see here @param. Yeah. So Spring Framework level, you are using @param annotation to bind method parameters to a query via named parameters. So what this annotation is saying, @param annotation, this is what. Yeah. To define that, we have to use an annotation called as @param. Okay. So that is what it is. So how to use it is param. So for example, let's do like this. I'll give some differentiation, then you will understand very easily. Otherwise, you will get confused with this one also. So now see here param. What param name I have to give? For example, age. Yes, give age here. But one thing, make sure whatever the order you are getting values from the caller, like operations level, whatever the values you are passing, that order you have to make sure here also. For example, here I'll give like as it is only city name. So I given this one here. So inside the double quotes, give that city name and followed by string. You can use any variable names here, a by a, x y comma. Now how do you know that which data type you have to take? Again, this I told you, go to the entity class. You know that city belongs to string column, age belongs to integer column. So based on that, you have to define. So simple, the rules whatever we discussed for the data types point of view, whatever is indexed point of view, same thing. Only thing is, in place of index we are using names, that's all. And to whenever you are using names, you have to use one extra annotation called as param. So that's all. Now here I will use something like city comma at the rate param, again one more param, and then followed by second parameter is what? This one, don't give the colon, guys. While defining the variable, you have to give the colon. But when you are defining at param annotation level, no need to give colon. Give only variable name. That's all. And followed by second parameter is space string what? Age or whatever it is. Yes, age. So now what? Very clearly you given parameter annotation and saying like whatever the first argument value comes into this variable level, that will go into this variable level, into here. So because this is the relationship now you are making, this one and this one and this one and this one. So that is how you are going to pass values in this case by using named SQL query. Mostly people will follow named SQL query parameters only, guys. Okay, it will give good understandability, readability point of view. So now if I'm going like this, then it's not done. Now you just pass the city name and gender age value, then automatically your query will be executed. Let me write public void load employees by city and age string city name integer age. I know I given their integer string value. So let's see here. Get employees by save all changes first, otherwise it will not reflect. Okay, get employees method name is, yeah, get employees by city and age. Okay, if you see here, I given string. Actually, in the entity class level, age level, what integer, right? So it's better to give integer only. That is why you have to define. So now let's call that method get. I think spelling mistake. So let me pass city, age value is something like 25, whatever it is. Yeah. So I pass the same values. Now what will happen? The moment you are calling, Hyderabad is the first value and 25. Then it will come here. Hyderabad value comes here and 25 comes here. And Hyderabad value based on the city name, that will replace here. Age point of view based on this one, that will be replaced here. It is. That one will be replaced here. Okay, so let's execute this method now from here. City name and age. Oh, why I passed values here then? Okay, I can pass this one here. City name, comma, age. I'll pass those values from here this time. That's all. It's all core Java techniques again. Okay, so this time I'm passing values directly from the main method itself. Hyderabad, like that. If you are interested, you can add scanner object, take input from the from the keyboard also while executing the program. Enter your city, Hyderabad, enter your age 25, then pass those values like that. So it's all how much practice you are doing. So now automatically Hyderabad, all these things will come here. Let's see here, save all changes. Yeah, see here, automatically got all employees whose age is 20 below less than 25. For example, if I given 30, see this time you got one more employee also whose employee age is 28. That means less than 30 from the Hyderabad city. So that means same thing. Query is executed. If you observe the query again, in this case also internally Hibernate is taking care of something like positional parameters point of view, but it doesn't matter for us. But internally, I mean, what our concept point of view, we passed values this time via variables by using named parameters. Yeah, this is the approach we followed this time. For example, if you given anything mistake with respect to name what you given and whatever you given at parameter level, then again you will get some exceptions. And you don't need to give columns. When you are using that named query parameter as part of param annotation, don't use colon. When you are defining at query level, colon should be there. But when you are defining at annotation level, okay, you don't need to use again colon. Use just only variable name. So this is how you can pass values via using named SQL query parameters. Okay. So any doubts until this? Now, if you have any doubts, you can ask me. Now let's move to the same concept. I mean, what we discussed as of now is with respect to indexed and query parameters concept, whatever it is, values you can pass anyway. So we executed only select queries. My point here it is, we executed only select queries from last class and today's class also. If you observe here, we written everything select query. Select star from, select star from, select star from. So that means this is all comes under, the select query is not part of DML. So this is comes under data query language DQL. But so you know that DML I already discussed and even it is a SQL concept. So DML queries. Now if I want to execute DML queries, what I have to do? Now if I want to execute DML queries, what we have to do? What is the point of DML queries? Data okay, manipulation language queries. Okay, so that means insert query, delete query, update query. So these three queries comes under always DML queries. So what is the point of DML? So in this case, data will be modified. For example, the moment you are inserting in the table level, what will happen? I executed insert query one time. For example, if you go here, yeah, assume this is the table insert query, right? I mean, leave about the table concept wise, insert. If I am executing this query, what will happen? Okay, table not existed. I think table I deleted. Okay, let me create the table. Yeah, table is created. Now see here, the moment I executed insert query, one record is inserted. Whether it is right or wrong, see here. Yeah, one record is inserted. Now what is the point of DML in this case is, now if I executed this query one more time, what will happen? One more record is inserted. For example, right now one record is there. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that means the moment I am executing DML queries, okay, table level, maybe records are updated or new records are added or existing records are deleted. That means table level some manipulation is happening. See, 9 records. So DML queries is, that is what? It's all SQL concept, guys. I'm just taking overview, that's all. I'm not going deep. So DML queries point of view, what will happen? The moment you are you are executing insert query, every time new record is inserted. The moment you are doing delete from product, what will happen? Data is deleted. Or if you given something like, now how many records available? 9 records available. The moment I am executing delete query, what will happen? One record is deleted, and see how many records available now? All records are gone. 0 records. So that means what happened? 9 records deleted. So that means as part of DML queries, what's happening? Every time whenever you are executing a DML query, whether insert or delete or update, table structure will be modified. Table structure, not table structure, table data level, some manipulation is happening. Sometimes new record is inserted. Now 0 records are available. 0 records available. Now if I am executing insert query, one record is inserted. Second time, one more record. Third time, one more record. If I am executing delete query, all the records are going. So that means there is a probability of increasing or decreasing or some modification is happening when you are executing the delete query. But when it comes to the select query, now tell me, this is what select queries we executed. Like for example, select star from product. Now tell me, in this case, I will execute this query 1000 times. 1000 times I will execute this query. What will happen? Any manipulation at table level is going to happen means no. For example, if I am executing, 3 records are there, 3 I got. Execute, third time, fourth time, fifth time, sixth time. So that means a select query can be executed n number of times, but it will never ever manipulate the manipulate the table data. But DML data is going to manipulate the data. That's why we used to call those queries as a DML queries. That's all SQL point of view. And I told you one more point also when we discussed about, okay, something like transaction management in our previous sessions. When we are doing the update query operations, all these things, I said one annotation we have to use. The moment you use delete by, so when we discussed about the delete operation, we used one annotation called as at the rate transactional. Then I explained again what is a transaction. Transaction is applied on the DML queries, not on the DQL queries. Some information again I provided in the previous sessions. If you are remembered or not, I don't know, but I given it. So somewhere we used at the rate transactional. See, this is what. So we used all these annotations. So what is this annotation? Why and all? What is transactional annotation and all? I given. And at that time I told you this will be used in upcoming classes also. So that means whenever you are making delete operations or something like some kind of DML operations, generally JPA internally enables transaction management. So same point of view. Now with respect to today, I'm executing native SQL queries. For example, I want to insert data. Now for example, I want to insert data of an employee. So we will use save method. That's a different story. It's all JPA repository. Now my point here it is, it's all native SQL queries point of view. So that means via query I would like to insert the data. Via query I would like to insert the data. So what we have to do? So is it like simply I'll define insert query here, query, okay, for example, public void add employee, something like that, and I pass here and assume total I think 6-7 columns are there. If you go to the employee table, how many columns are there? Employee details. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns are there. So maybe whether it's an index parameter or named parameter, I will define here at the rate param, employee ID, at the rate param, name, salary, age, gender, like that. And even so now in this case, what we have to do? So here we will write insert query this time. We have to pass insert query, and at that insert query level, whatever the values I want to pass, I will pass it. But this time, the value we are passing DML query. Understand the point? So this time we are passing DML query. Not only insert, even delete also. Delete, update also. So DML query means it might be insert, it might be delete, it might be update. Three types of queries. Now there is a small problem you will get the moment you are using the DML query directly, and what and all, let's see here. What I will do, I'll take insert operationally, no problem. Let's go here. First, make sure your query is good. I already told you. So it's first make sure your query is good. Insert into employee details and values of, for example, I given 1000 as employee ID, and I given employee ID as Dilip, sorry, name as Dilip, and age something like I'll give 33, and followed by salary. So I'll give some value, and city Chennai. So I'll give like Hyderabad. Okay. And then followed by gender value, I'll give as male, and followed by country, I'll give as India, like this. Now this query is good or not, let me verify first of all, syntax wise. Yeah, this query is good. That means my data is inserted properly. If you want to see, yeah, Dilip data is inserted, query is good. Now our point is what? We will execute this query via JPA point of view. And this is the DML query this time. And I'll make sure these values are passed dynamically. Okay, so that means maybe I can go with indexed, or I can go with named. So I'm not going with named. You just try with named. Okay. So if it is index positional parameters, what you have to do? You will make sure something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If it is indexed, if it is named, you will give like colon something names you can give. It's, I told you, right, named is always good. Okay, so it's better to go like colon employee ID colon name colon salary colon something like that, colon city colon gender colon. See, if you are seeing this, how can you understand this? This is the employee ID, this is a city, this is a column. It's very difficult, right? That's why named parameters are very good with respect to readability point of view. For example, if you take in same thing, what will happen? Colon, for example, at least you use it this way: employee ID colon name, and followed by colon age colon salary, and colon city colon gender colon country. So see how meaningful it is when comparing with previous solution. Now if I given this query to someone else, he will understand very easily. Okay, here employee ID going, first value is employee ID, second value is name, second third value is age, like that he will understand very easily. That's why I said named parameters will improve the readability. That's all. But at the same time, you have to use at the rate param annotation. This you can try. Okay. This you can try, but I will go with indexed positional parameters only. Let's see here. Okay, let's take this query. I'm putting here. Okay, cool. So total 7 values I'll pass dynamically like this. One country, all these things. Now how many parameters I have to define at employee level? Total 7 values I have to provide, and in the same order. And which data type and all, you can get it from the employee details. For example, long is the employee ID. So let's take long employee ID. Comma. Second one is employee name, I think. Yeah, employee name, age, followed by name, string name. It's better to take always data type from here and from the entity class. So name you given. See, automatically Eclipse is showing you what and all going where. And then So third one is age, I think integer age. Fourth one is what value we passed? Salary. Okay. And salary is what data type? Float. See, same thing we are discussing. Nothing we have done new today. Query is same, but one small problem you will get while executing. That's all. But preparing the query, passing entity param, I mean passing the index parameters, defining index, same thing. Concept is same. We have not done anything new as of now. Only query style is changed. Instead of select, we given today. I given insert. That's all. Salary and fourth one, what fifth one, what we given is city. I think okay. Okay. So that means string city, and then followed by let me do make it like this. Sixth one is what we given. I think gender and country. Okay. String gender comma string country. Okay, so that's all. So now automatically all these values, whatever you passed in the order, going further, whatever the values I'm adding, those will be replaced here. Okay, that is cool. And native query equal to, if you observe here, I given true only. So everything is good. Now call this method from the operations class and execute what's happening. Let's try to understand. Public void add new employee, something like that. Okay, so repository level, you created the method, right? Now pass the values one by one. Add employee. Okay, so what I will do, I'll pass here 2000 and I'm passing here name as Suresh and age, I think this is age. I'll give 29 and salary, I'll give like 50,000. And then what? Uh, what is the order we taken? City, gender, male. Okay, so I'll give maybe he's from Pune or whatever it is. And gender, I'll give like male. And from the India. Okay, so this mapping and all we know that automatically these values are going to be comes here and based on the index point of view, the automatically the values will be mapped here. This is all our assumption and this is all the story. We know that now automatically 2000 Suresh 29 50,000 Pune, all these values will be replaced here based on the values order whatever you passed from the operations class. And if you want what how many records inserted or not, 0 or 1, you can give take integer or you can take void, whatever it is. For example, I want to see how many records are inserted. So that means return type is integer, right? So integer number of records. Simply I will take like count. This is and all, it's up to our choice. Number of records inserted. Count. Okay, so see here now. Okay, now call this method again from the main method. We have not done anything new, guys, as of now. Only thing is we give an insert query this time, that's all. But we are passing same way values and everything via index. So here it will come here, these values will be passed here and index level, all the values will be passed. But when you are practicing, please make sure named query parameters also along with this. Both you have to do. So that's all. Now execute the program and try to see automatically insertion is happening or not. Yeah, if you see here, some problem came. That is what expected thing I think. I mean, I am discussing now. So that's why I specially given a heading called as DML queries. Otherwise, I would have say like, please make sure same thing applicable for insert and delete queries, update queries also, and please practice like that. I would have completed. But with respect to DML queries, approach is same like named conditional and all once. But what will happen internally is, let's see. If you see here, some exception you got. What it is trying to do? Insert into employee details. Internally, JPA is trying to do that. JPA trying to insert data based on the values what you are giving, and it is trying to replace and it is trying to insert the data. But what it is saying, mhm. This I will tell you later. Fetch out of sequence. This we can go with the sequences point of view. ID column point of view. Index positional parameters. Give me a second. I'll tell you. This we have a one more concept. Then I'll tell you what it is. That's why it's better to go with other query. I thought of discussing that sequence generator one concept we have. Even if you remove this value also. Yeah, we have a small concept called a sequence generator. Then we will understand internally it is looking for next sequence value based on the primary key column. And now it is saying at least 7 provided, but only 6 parameters presented. Okay, I'm keeping that value back again. Okay, let's execute again and let me try with the new solution. Otherwise, I'll take update query or delete query. Then you will not get that sequence issue. Then we will discuss it later. See, something you are not able to do it probably, right? If you observe and if you see here 2000, I think there is no employee. Select to start from employee details. Oh, Suresh is inserted here. Let me do one thing. I'll use 2000 2222 point of view. It's a primary key value, guys. That's why this is all story is happening now. Primary key value, you know that, right? Duplicate values you can't give again. And if you see here, still you got the error, but yes, triple two is inserting. Okay. So do one thing. I'll discuss this. Give me a moment. I'll take a better example right away. We'll go with delete query and then we'll discuss this thing also. It will become very easy then. Okay, I'll take DML query only, but I'll take probably delete query. So let's do one thing. I want to show you some exception. That's why we will execute this. Now let's come back and write a query like this: delete employee. And I don't want all these. I want only employee ID. Based on the employee ID, I will delete the employee details. So then I'll change this query also. See, I'm not touching this. I'm taking a new delete query point of view. Now, see, write the delete query first and test for whether query is good or not. Yeah. So here I'll give delete from employee details where uh, employee ID. EMP underscore ID equal to something I'll give like yeah, one record is deleted. That means 322 employee is gone now. So that means delete query is good now. Now let me take this query and pass values dynamically here. So I'm passing here and I'll pass value dynamically to here. So for example, I can take positional parameter or index parameter. One I take. So whatever the employee ID comes here, then internally it will execute the delete query. And it is a native query filter. So let's call this method now. Public void delete employee. Delete employee. I am passing a value called as we will take existing employee information first. Select a star from employee details. I'll give 11. 11 number of records deleted. Okay, so I passed employee ID 11. So that means what will happen? Delete from employee details where employee ID equal to 11 like that internally. 11 employee information has to be deleted. That is our assumption now. And let's call that method now. Operations dot delete employee. So the moment I'm calling delete employee, let's see what is happening. I don't think I added anywhere else. Yeah, if you observe here again, see delete query point of view also you got some exception. Okay. Some kind of exceptions you are seeing. What I'm trying to say it is when you did the insert also, insert is happened, but at the same time you are seeing some kind of exception stack trace here, like a problem occurred in SQL error. Okay, executor, something fetch out of sequence, results at position, something like that you. But if you go and verify in the DB level again, okay, I given 11, right? Observe 11 employee information is deleted. 11 employee information is deleted. Even though delete operation is happened, even though insert operation is happened, but what kind of errors we are seeing here it is. What kind of exceptions we are seeing here it is. Somewhat we are seeing a weird exception like, okay, they are not able to trace the next sequence ID, something like that. And if you see here, fetch out of sequence, like that. To avoid this kind of exceptions, see that's what internally you don't, I mean, don't worry too much about all these things. If you are having time, go through these exceptions and explore it and understand. It will take longer time. But if you want to avoid this exception point of view, internally they are using what? You are doing some modification on the table level, modification of data on the table level. That's what DML queries. The moment you are using the DML queries, generally what we have to do is you have to make sure adding an annotation called as at the rate transactional, and you have to add one more annotation called as at the rate modifying also. For example, if you see here, I'll do here first, and then same thing you can apply here also. At delete level, I'm using an annotation called as transactional. I'm using an annotation called as transactional. And the transactional annotation I said already go with the Spring framework point of view. Because this internal transaction management is implemented by the Spring framework, use that annotation. And here you have one more annotation called as modifying annotation. So that is also provided by Spring Framework only. ORG Spring Framework. If you observe here, indicates that a query method should be considered as a modifying query as that changes the way it needs to be executed. This annotation is only considered if you use query methods defined through a query annotation. See, that means this annotation you have to use always at a query annotation level. That's why we are using. It's not applied on custom implementation methods and all. Simply queries that requires at the rate modifying annotation includes insert, update, delete and DDL statements. DDL means you know that alter table, creating the table, data definition language. So at that level. But in our case, insert, update and delete. The moment you are using insert, update, delete queries along with at the rate query annotation, you have to use always at the rate modifying internally. At the rate modifying internally. So that modifying annotation, why and all, what is the purpose and all. If you have time, you just go through it. So internally they are taking care of some, that's what I said, right? They are taking a lot of default transaction management point of view. What is the transaction management also we discussed in our previous sessions. So you just go through this kind of things. Now try to understand what's happening. Now with rest, so what I did, I added transactional annotation and I added an annotation called as at the rate modifying also. Now let me give a new employee ID here. Instead of 11, I think I'll give some existing employee ID. I'll give employee ID 1. So I'm giving employee ID 1. So the moment I give an employee ID 1, delete employee ID 1. So I'm calling this method internally 1 value comes here. So that means delete from employee details where employee ID equal to 1. So one employee ID should be deleted from the code. Let's go to the main method, call this method, sorry, run as Java application. Yeah. If you see here, this time you avoided that exceptions. So internally what container is doing, some kind of, internally what Spring Boot JPA is doing, that exceptions you are avoiding here it is. So that's why it's recommended to use always at the rate modifying annotation wherever you are using the insert, delete, update queries. Not only, I'm not saying that Spring itself saying. So Spring itself saying like queries that require always at the rate modifying annotation include insert and update, delete queries. So you have to use that. Now same thing if you given this one also, here also, yes. Now my point here it is modifying annotation, transactional annotation. Do we really need to give it select queries means? No, that's what. It's not a DML query. It's a DQL. So that's why I said the moment you are executing this query 1,000 times select star from employee details, it will never ever make any changes on the data level of your table. So the select query execution will always get the data from the existing, but it will not do any modification on the table data level. So that's why select query is not part of DML query. Select is a DQL query. So this is all SQL concepts. Okay. So that's why the moment you are using delete queries, you have to use always this annotation. And if you want, you can use this annotation at transactional at repository level also. You can use, or you can call it method level also. So from here also you can define at the rate transactional. At the rate transactional. Tomorrow, if you have more than one, what? More than one query executed as part of single method call itself, then you can add at the rate transactional here also, or here also you can add. You can shift at the rate transactional wherever you want. But modifying level, modifying query, sorry, modifying annotation, you have to give always at query level only. Now let's insert the data again one more time. So I'll give this time insert data. Earlier you got that exception, right? So now see here, I'm making add employee and I'll give this time 5,000, something like that. And something like, I'll give like Alice or whatever it is. New York, something like USA, whatever it is. So I given different information now. Now let's call the add employee method again. Save all changes. Now I'm calling employee. I mean, insert query execution this time. Earlier you got exception, but this time see here again. So insert query is happened and number of records inserted one. Number of records inserted one. So whether it is really inserted or not, if you want, you can verify, select star from employee details. So if you see here 5000, yeah, Alice, 5000 point of view, Alice, New York, whatever the information. So all the data is replaced and even insert query is executed without any exception. So that means what is the point you have to understand in the overall point here it is. The moment you are executing DML queries, okay, the moment you are executing DML queries, use always at the rate modifying annotation along with at the rate query annotation. At the rate query annotation. So that is what you have to remember here it is. So DML means again insert and update and delete point of view. I'm not taking update example. You can take that. Insert and update I take. Insert and delete I taken. Update query you can try. Then also you'll get. Then add this annotation at query level. You will get it. Simple. This rule you have to remember. The moment you are executing DML queries, native SQL queries or maybe JPQL queries, whatever it is, you have to use always modifying annotation along with query annotation for only DML queries, but not DQL. Nothing but a select queries point of view, you don't need to do anything. So that is all. That is how you have to execute both DML and DQL queries, native SQL queries from the JPA module of Spring. So tomorrow what we can do is, I mean now you are very good with index query parameters and named positional parameters and even how to write abstract method as well as writing this repository level defining these methods, right? Now JPQL will not take much time because even in place of SQL query we will write the JPQL query. That's all. But named query parameters, indexed query parameters, both are concept wise. Again, those two concepts we use using the JPQL also, guys. Only thing is SQL versus JPQL point of view, we will understand why JPQL introduced by the JPA language, JPA specification. We will discuss that information and we will create one or two JPQL queries also. But even inside JPQL also, when you want to pass values dynamically, again you will use indexed and positional parameters, what we discussed so far. So that's why I'll try to finish JPQL tomorrow in one session. It's that's all. Then we will move to the maybe not JPA mappings. The next concept is sequence generations, sequence generators. So we have JPA sequence generators. We will discuss that. And then finally we'll go for JPA mappings. So once you are done with JPA mappings, we are done with JPA module. So you're almost done. That's what. Only major concept pending is JPA mappings. Sequence generator is a very small topic. I'll discuss that once tomorrow JPQL is completed. So in another 5 to 6 classes, we'll finish the JPA module and then we'll enter into Spring MVC module or web module. So please remember this indexed positional. So in interviews, they will ask you what is the difference between indexed and named parameters, how to define, what is the syntaxes. So which one I have to choose, which one is a better. So what is the how to execute DML queries? Anything else we have to take care. So what are the annotations you know from JPA module? How many annotations you are used? At what time, what annotation I have to use? Do you know at the rate modifying annotation? So these are all things will come as part of the interview questions. Not one. I can create hundreds of interview questions from Spring. I mean from the JPA module itself. But these are all things in and out you have to practice. Then only you can answer. And even as part of your project also, you have to implement all these solutions. Means when you know in and out. At least awareness is more important. After that, slowly you can build your in and depth knowledge step by step. It will not come within one day. I know that. Okay, so that's all for today, and let's probably we taken a long break also last week. So just revise all the things and make sure today indexed and named parameters are completed, including DML queries by adding these annotations also. So these are all things available in the material also. If you want a little bit explanation theory about these annotations, I added in the material. Just go through the material, you'll get the theory information also about all these annotations, what we discussed practical point of view in our sessions. Okay, so tomorrow we'll discuss JPQL.